Now, a question about nature of God. Professor David Kyle Johnson, he recently said Psalm 137, where there is this verse, I quote, "Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones."
Mhm.
What kind of a God would allow little ones dashed against the stones? I don't want that kind of a God. So what would you say to Professor Johnson?
I would say, first of all, Professor Johnson, if you're an atheist, you have no grounds by which to morally object to anything that God does because you have no standard outside of yourself. So I'm asking him what his moral standard is by which he would judge things, judge that in a negative way. Second, if he looks at that passage is simply expressing the angst of the Israelite who had their babies dashed against the stones when the Babylonians came in to Israel and destroyed everything, destroyed people, murdered people, carried many of them into exile. The Psalms are usually, well, let me put it this way. Most of the Bible is God speaking to us. The Psalms are us speaking to God. They're prayers, most of them. And there are imprecatory Psalms, which is just expressing human emotion. God, why do you let the evil prosper? God, I'm distraught. Why don't you destroy my enemy? God, our babies were murdered by the Babylonians. I wish their babies were murdered too, so they could feel our pain. This is just expressing human emotion. It's not saying that God is advocating this kind of thing. It's simply saying that this is an honest prayer to God to say, I'm hurting. I wish they felt my pain. So there's other ways to deal with that too. In fact, my friend, I'm looking for a book on my shelf right here. His name is Dan Kimball. This is a brand new book that deals with issues like that. How Not to Read the Bible by Dan Kimball. And he addresses this issue of Psalm, what did you say? It was 137 or 37? I can't remember. I think probably 137. Yeah, 137. And Dan goes through some of these cases that, I mean, they're good questions. Don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming this gentleman for bringing the issue up, but I am suggesting that he doesn't understand the nature of the passage. I'm also suggesting that he doesn't have a moral standard by which to judge anything if he claims to be an atheist. Now, a fair point would be for him to say, Paul, okay, I'm not an atheist. I do believe in God, but I think the God of the Bible is not the true God. Okay, you can say that. That's a fair way of saying, now I have a standard. It's God, but the God of the Bible is not the true God. But then the problem you run into is you've got to deal with all the evidence that the God of the Bible is the true God, especially Jesus, who, when you look at the life of Jesus and you look at the miracles he did and what he taught and the fact that he rose again to prove he was God and the fact that he affirmed the entire Old Testament, that is better evidence that the entire Old Testament is true, whether we understand it completely or not, than to say, look, I just don't like some of the things I'm interpreting from the Old Testament. Jesus is really the trump card. In fact, I'm thinking of John chapter 6 when after some of the disciples leave Jesus because he says, look, if you want to follow me, you must eat my flesh and drink my blood. And then he turns to Peter after some of the disciples left and he says, are you going to leave too? And Peter says something very insightful. He says, Lord, to whom are we going to turn? You have the words of eternal life. Where are you going to go other than Jesus? If Jesus is truly who he said he is, and he is, the evidence is there, where else are you going to go? He is God, whatever he teaches us.